in. And the private sector has to be dominated by Africans. This is where we get the problem. Our governments in Africa don't control the core of the African economy. It is controlled by individuals whose sole objective is maximizing profit and sending this money to the outside world. So that makes it very difficult for us as a nation to be able to solve certain societal problems, because they don't want us to spend more on public issues. And that is where our development lies. How do we make sure that we change the education system? How do we make sure that we read books that entails the African value, the African reality, the African history? But if we do not have all this in place, it makes it very, very difficult for us. So that is exactly what we are saying.
So you're saying that school-going children now should be taught in the local language and all of that?
Yes.
And
now,
local language in the parliament. Is it not too late? Is it too late?
It is not too late.
Okay.
English, for instance, it is today our official language. Not so. English is not a traditional language in the Gambia. It was programmed and it developed to where it is today. Isn't it not time? People have been saying that for the past 10 years, even in the Gambia's parliament, that we need to look inward about the ethnic groups that we have here, about the languages that we have within the country. We have seen Swahili in East Africa now being recognized as official language. You know, so that is exactly where we need to look into. We have other languages in the Gambia where almost every part of the Gambia speaks. Why can't we look into one or two among these languages, adapt it as an official language? Trying to preach the same language, trying to teach children using the same language. Because let me tell you this. If you go to school, you're reading English from grade 1 to grade 12. You're being taught how to count. You're being taught how to speak English when you already have a language in which you understand all those things. So wasn't it going to be easy for you to use 6 years of those periods learning about a particular skill, let's say leadership, let's say politics, let us talk about entrepreneurship, let us talk about agriculture and etc. These are areas where people need to understand and people have to be equipped in.
Okay, so you're saying that skills should be taught at an early age.
Exactly.
Yeah, introduced at maybe grade 6 or something.
That is how you realize the talents of individuals. I'm sorry to say, but here in the Gambia, people live and die without realizing their talent. And it happens to almost all other African countries. Isn't it not time for us to have mechanisms where we can easily identify the skills of individuals at a very young age and tailor it in a way that it will be productive for the society?
That is true, but sometimes if you look at public schools, how many students are in one class? And how can that teacher really know the learning styles of each and every child in that particular classroom? That is also a constraint.
Now, let us see this. In the Western world that imposes this education system with us, there is no school that doesn't have career counseling. Each student have an opportunity to meet an individual who coach them based on their careers and talents.
Sure.
So how comes we are taking this bad style of teaching an education system from them and not seeing the actual things that they are doing? We have seen the Scandinavian countries today where they easily channel their kids in a way that they just develop a skill at a very young age. Before you reach grade 12, you can do something extremely well.
Okay.
Isn't it not time for us to look into that? Look at Rwanda, for instance. They have a good model, but technology has been the solution to most of their problems today. Children at primary school are now exposed to technology. That is where we need to look into, because this is the 21st century. We cannot develop in the absence of technology.
So are you trying to say that we did take the education system from the West, but we are not really implementing it the way they're implementing theirs? Is that what you're saying?
The problem is they give us a good model, and we never have chance. They give us a bad model, and we never have chance to correct it.
Okay.
So what we need to do is, how do we correct it? This is not the education system that they're having in the West. How comes they introduce this to us and then adopt a different thing? Isn't it time for us to look into that?
Okay, but so are you trying to say that they gave us an education system, but we are not implementing it the way they are implementing it in their countries?
They gave us exactly what we are implementing.
Okay.
They gave us exactly what we are implementing, because they understand that in order to dominate us, the education system must be defeated. This has been the program of the colonizers, and that is exactly what they left with us. So they never adopt this system because they know it is not good. So what are they adopting? What are they using? So that is why I said it is high time for Africa to look inward. Look into what is working in different African countries and then try to adapt that as a style. But we trust people who have been dominating us for 400 years, exploiting our resources with exploitation and racism behaviors, and yet we find it difficult to trust our neighbors. This is the question within the continent. It is high time for us to bridge the disconnection. These borders mean nothing. Even if I travel to Kenya today, I just recognize brothers and sisters in the streets. If you travel to Liberia today, you recognize brothers and sisters along the streets. So that is what we need to understand, and we build that as a nation.
Okay. Usman, are you a socialist?
I just want to give this as an answer.
Okay.
Because a kind of a question was asked to Nelson Mandela, and his response was that we don't care whether the cat is black or white as long as it can catch mice.
Okay.
So socialist, capitalist, communist, what I believe is an African model that is going to work for the African continent.
Okay, so you don't have a specific ideology that you're following?
Because all these ideologies are borrowed.
Okay.
Isn't it high time for us to think about what works in Africa?
Okay.
If a socialist can be put in an African model, a socialist system that entails the African reality, the African development agenda, and things that can make it work for us, why not we go for it?
Okay, so that is why I'm asking, are you one?